We're back with Strata Unscripted. Hi, Katharine.
Hey.
So, lots going on out there in the world of Strata. It's Friday the 13th. What are we going to talk about?
You know what's funny is I'm not actually a very superstitious person. Because like I like black cats. To me, like witches are just like fabulous cackling group of women around their big pot of soup, having a great time. But there is one superstition that I do subscribe to, and that's the Vancouverite special. If you kill a spider, it will rain. Now, I usually have a shit ton of cobwebs in my home, and it's still pissing outside, so that's on all of y'all, by the way. So
Yeah,
we killing
somebody up
spiders up
there.
there. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I love
um,
spiders.
yeah, me too. They get the good, they get the bad bugs. They're good.
Precisely.
Um, no, I wanted to do Friday the 13th today and kind of talk about Strata because to me those things go hand in hand. Plus next week is spring break, so we couldn't do it next week, so this made sense. Um, Humans are so weird. We're like wired to make up horror stories, basically. Um, because we have that like threat response, and when we don't have information or the information's missing, we basically fill the gaps in with stories because we like a scary story better than we like uncertainty. So like no longer is it just a creaking floor upstairs, it's the crazy man who's out to get me. You know what I mean? Like it couldn't just be an imbalanced system in terms of like the ventilation or the plumbing. It's a witch up there, basically.
I
So
have witches. Like, our house creaks a lot. I don't know what they're doing, but
dude, they're just trying to make soup, okay? Leave the witches out of this.
you're right. We do.
Yeah.
We love a story,
We
and
hate
we love the way
randomness
that it feels.
more, basically. We hate randomness and we love stories, and we'd rather be scared than just deal with absence of information. So, yeah. Plus, we kind of catch fear, I think, emotionally. Those feelings, there's this emotional contagion where basically, when one person physiologically their heart starts racing, you almost like emit different pheromones, and the people around them start feeling it too. And then all of a sudden, you have this group of what is normally incredibly functional people literally investigating witches, which unfortunately has happened more than once in my career. The conversation about witches in the building, for real. So, yeah, no, I'm not even joking. um, I'm curious, what horror stories have you seen along your way, along your data collection journey in Strata?
Well, we don't focus on horror stories. That's not
No,
where
they
the
come to you
interesting
just
data
naturally.
for me lies. But you see a lot of recurring themes that are problematic. The neighborhood disputes. They happen in every type of neighborhood. And you and I had this conversation over LinkedIn this week, right? Like, you've got issues with neighbors no matter where you live. And that happens even more in an amplified environment when you share a hallway, when you can't really escape from some of your neighbors in that sense. And to another degree beyond that, when you're all trying to determine how to spend your collective money and budget. And so some of the interpersonal things, though, that we hear from people that live in strata are really unfortunate. And the horror stories about having people that are quite emotionally abusive to other residents is not nice, especially when it's coming from the authority, which is your strata council within a community. And yet we heard examples of that this week, and
Yeah.
that's very discouraging. Um, all of the people and pets things that come up all the time. Hoarding comes up, and it floored me when we were talking to Phil Dugan, because he said 6% of people are hoarders. And you think about a big complex, like, that's multiple hoarders in a building. That's crazy. So those sorts of things are the stuff
But
that
like all
really
mental health issues that are surrounded by such stigma, people get really good at hiding them. That's why, like, a lot of the time you don't realize until, what gives it away is usually either smell or rodent issues in the adjacent units.
yeah.
That's what causes it. So,
That's what Phil told me. So those are some of the horror stories. Pretty superficial. I haven't spent time managing buildings like you have. I haven't worked directly with people that have managed those buildings and had them come into my office and sigh and be like, "You wouldn't believe what happened to me today." you've been there. Like, what
Oh
has
yeah.
what has caught
Well,
your
it's
eye?
funny you said hoarder because there was an incident where one of the, I'm not going to name the municipality, but one of the municipalities after this particular water escape hoarder incident, um, they rewrote district fire department policies because of this case. Um,
Mm.
and the part that's the horror story to me is while this hoarder incident was going on, they were simultaneously dealing with issues with their resident caretaker, who was also an owner. And to me, anytime a resident caretaker, building manager, janitor, whoever is also the resident, as an owner in the building, that is asking for a horror story down the road. The part that's a horror story to me is while all this mess unfolded, the building changed over managers. I left that brokerage. I went to another one. So they moved on to like multiple different managers because they'd shoot everyone up. That particular caretaker is now the president of that strata. And it
Wow.
terrifies me because they were, it was not a good situation in that building. And I'm not going to even name the municipality because there's some really unfortunate things that have gone on in that building.
You
Um,
said something really interesting about the resident caretaker being an owner, and that's a problem.
mhm.
Why would that be a problem?
Okay, well, first of all, nobody wants to like live and work within their own home. So what I find is people who want to be resident caretakers are already going to be a little bit crazy. Okay, for some reason, the job itself of living within a building that you work in, it just attracts crazy people. Um, that's a generalized statement, not a medical diagnosis, of course. Disclaimer.
I do that. It sounds okay. I mean, I take pride where I live. I want it to be nice. I could do that.
No, you
Maybe
have
I'm
to think
crazy.
that people could be there right at you to do things for them 24/7, 365. You're watched all the time, you're judged all the time, you're never not on call. It's a really hard position, and there's only a few times where I've seen a resident caretaker like really successfully own that role. Most of the time, it ends up being like super weird things. Like I have seen resident caretaker owners who start renting out storage rooms to various people, transient workers, sex workers, even. So there's been some really interesting horror stories around resident caretakers and creative
Mm.
salary supplementing over the years.
Well,
Um,
then.
yeah. So, yeah,
Yeah, you can certainly see that there would be an opportunity that would arise there.
yeah, no, for sure. Um, yeah, I don't like, if you're gonna, honestly, if you need janitor, caretaker, stuff like that, go with a contractor and go with someone who works off site. You got to think too, if you're hiring someone who's an owner, they have access to documentation, and it can never really like not be certain conflicts of interest. And there's always, it's weird, there's always bad blood. I don't know what it is. I feel like corporate already understands this. That's why a lot of the time companies will not promote to highest leadership within the same company, or they won't do it within the same branch office. They'll promote them but move them to a different office. And I feel like that's kind of a similar thing there. Get your contractors to come in. Don't hire within your own ownership. It gets messy later. People have pre-existing relationships. And there was a lot of, I'm not like going to get into it, there's a lot of impropriety on the case of that particular person too that was reported to me um, subsequently through that whole process. And knowing now, having left the building, that that person is on the council again makes me scared. So,
Shudder. And there,
yeah, no, for
the
real.
crimes
I
which
would
are
never
committed.
buy in that building ever. So,
So in the news, Coquitlam. There's a building in
yes.
Coquitlam. It's called Grand Central, and it's been in every
Mm,
paper. So we're not
yes.
sharing
No,
any,
yeah,
sort of
public
secrets here.
information. Yeah.
This is all out there. I've never been there. I don't know it other than what I've read, but what I've read has been shocking.
Mhm.
Can you kind of give a brief summary for everyone?
Oh no, please, by all means.
Okay,
Because you
so
got it,
just
you got it firsthand from some owners this week too, right? You guys were
we
talking
did
about
hear
it.
from some
Yeah,
that knew a bit more than we
yeah.
did, but from the news, there was a strata council, there was a proxy fight, there was a new council elected, and then the old council refused to consider that meeting valid, and you had basically two different camps, both asking for fees, claiming that they were in charge. and I think over the intervening months, because it's been months now, you've seen more turnover in management companies because this is not a standard
Normal
situation.
situation, yeah, no.
And there's a huge amount of uncertainty there for anyone that's involved. The courts, I think, did come out and say that the newly elected council was fair and that it
Legitimate,
could stand.
yeah.
It was also a section building, so there was some additional complexity, and there were some commercial units that weren't being treated fairly and all the rest of it. But what really got me when I read the stories was that one of the managers, a licensee, was a designated licensee, was like involved in a midnight raid on an elevator to pry out some
Do you know how
notice
much we're paid
boxes.
as licensees? You do not pay me enough to go to a building at midnight to put up or take down notices. That's ridiculous.
Like, seriously, something's up there. It just doesn't sit well. I have no idea about any of the persons involved, but that circumstance is highly unusual. And well, I believe in the latest story I'd seen that the police had decided that that was not going to be, some sort of crime. There was clearly an act of mischief there, and I hope that sort
We're
of
not
behavior
making
is
ourselves
discouraged.
look good as an industry, hey? Like, I had a conversation with a developer on the phone just the other day, and we were talking about like the idea of trying to market as no strata fees, and it's not really a condo. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I get it, but again, strata's not the enemy. It's just equity and structure. The part that's scary to people is not strata. Like, let's stop that. Strata's not scary. Other people are scary.
Totally.
That's what it is, right? So it wouldn't matter if you were registered as a co-op or a HOA, HOC, or a strata. All of them have the similar interpersonal challenges. It's just the Strata Property Act's the most battle-tested legislation for governance. So don't scrap that. That's not the plan. That's a bad plan. Don't take the only
Yeah.
structure that's been tested for the longest and throw it away. That's not the
I really
problem.
like it for big buildings. I really like it, whether it's 10, 20, 30, 50, 500 units. I don't like it for little ones. I
I
don't
gotta
think it
say, it doesn't matter the size. Talking
totally
to Shawn
does.
Michaels from Obsidian, some of their best clients, or best in terms of how much time they're buying, are little multiplexes because they literally have the money and they can't get along and they don't want to deal with each other. And or like some of them have like restraining orders against each other. I posted a picture on LinkedIn of a duplex where literally it's like almost like you could cut it in half. Half has replaced the roof, half's done the outside and the painting, half maintains their lawns. But the problem is leaks are not going to stop at that edge. The weeds and the seeds from all those lawn weeds are going to start flying over the nice lawn, right? So if you don't learn to get on the same page, everybody has to do more work. This guy gets more hate and this guy gets more work. So like,
Yeah. I mean,
it's the people, not the strata.
I
So,
actually live in a non-strata row house, which puts me in a very rare position in this province. There are not many. There are some in my neighborhood. I live on the North Shore, and whether I'm in my row house or I'm in a detached home, because I've had both, neighbors fight over trees. Whether you want
yeah.
to top them, whether you want to view, whether you want to, trees are a big issue here on the North Shore. And those fights exist no matter what type of structure you're in. I share one piece of a roof line with my neighbors, but not the rest of it. And they've all changed the roofs at different times. So some of them are original from the 80s, and some are new, like mine from a couple of years ago. And I don't need another level of government to manage my neighbors. I just don't. I don't think that if you're a duplex or we're five, I don't think I need another level of government.
You might not, but we can't all think that we're just the exceptions and that nobody needs rules.
But every other state, province, and country doesn't do this.
What do you
Why
mean?
are we
There's
in BC
HOAs
special?
all over the country, all over the United States. And
Oh, big
honestly, it's
HOAs, yes,
because
but
we
the
are,
duplexes
no,
and
it's
5
because
units?
we're immature as a society here in North America. We can't get along with each other without suing each other. Therefore, we need frameworks. Europe's and other areas have had longer to deal with the problems and come up
Mhm.
with a socially acceptable way of not screaming at each other or keying each other's cars on a regular basis, which we haven't mastered in the US and Canada yet, unfortunately, or Australia
Mhm.
for that matter.
Yeah, there are strata cousins.
Yep.
Everyone else in North America uses
So
different
there's
terms.
three giant countries right there that do it. So I mean, it's not the
Australia
only
doesn't
way.
stratify duplexes.
I mean, it depends on how you register it. Duplexes can be stratified. Most of the ones in BC are.
Yeah, I know. That's
It's
that's
it's
where I wonder.
just it's just a governance structure again. If you're doing your research about the building, won't you
Yeah.
want to have minutes, which should be part of the good governance according to the act, that will tell you who you're moving in next to. But if there's no governance and no requirements to have meetings or to record decisions or follow due process, what are you buying when you buy in? You have no idea. Right? So the governance is just the documentation, the equity, the structure of how you people are going to get along with each other while you live so
Mhm.
close together. And honestly, I hate to say it, being on the North Shore, you guys have bigger margins, right? You usually can more comfortably deal with some of those problems. I'm going to, as a stereotype, yes, but comparatively to other areas of the province where economic margins are now like razor thin, people are grading on each other more and more and more. The CRT wait is like years at this point, more than
Yeah,
24 months.
that's
So
awful.
people don't get along. It's not strata, it's people.
That's definitely people. Yeah, definitely people.
Just saying. Because like I feel like I defend strata all the time. And when strata's bad, it's real bad. I'm not gonna lie. But when it's good, it's beautiful. Like really, it truly is.
Yeah, it totally works in many circumstances. So I'm
It
not
just
I'm not
takes a
anti-strata.
good
We spend so
guide
much of
and
our
a good
personal lives in
educator,
it.
right?
Uh, yeah. I mean, we have some common property here. We spend $300 a year each of us puts into towards landscaping, and one of our lovely neighbors kindly coordinates it. So that's
And then when they move out and nobody wants to take it on, what do you do?
yeah. I might have to inherit it. Hopefully, another neighbor wants to do it.
But you see,
But
so there is
yeah,
organization needed and coordination. It's just the Strata
yeah,
Property Act gives
it's
it to
nicer that
people
way.
who
So if you are a duplex, like you each got one vote, you each one? Or are you the two
you
strata
have to get
council members?
along. Well, it's okay. So, for example, I have a self-managed strata client, and it's a fourplex, and
Yeah.
they are all owned by direct family members, and there for most parts would be no reason to do it, and like it should be just like easy, right? But for years just it just doesn't get done a lot of the time, so they're not
Mm,
planning and recording things and
interesting.
documenting things, so the minute that you want to sell or hand it off to someone else, you got nothing to do it with. And that's what I find with like duplexes and stuff. It's like you have to learn to get along. So with this particular strata, when I met
Right.
with them, I was like, look, technically you guys could have one person votes against. But the problem is you can't. So at every step of this process, I need you to get on the same page with each other. And they kind of looked at me like quizzically in the beginning, but I explained to them straight up. I said, because you're family members,
Yeah.
you have to get along and do this as a group,
What if you
because
don't
if
like each
there's
other
beef,
and
it
it's
doesn't matter.
2v2 or
I
1v1? Like,
literally would say, I'm like, I don't care. Half the time I would like be scolding them and I'd be like, guys, come on. I can see you probably drove your mother crazy. Um, and they'll just laugh. By the end,
yeah.
after meeting with them a few times over the course now of just over a year, they said to me one day, like literally, Katharine, you have not just organized our strata, you've helped heal years of family dysfunction. Um, so strata
Okay.
really can be beautiful.
Look at your two unit duplex there where one had the new roof and the nice grass and the other one was a bit of a disaster.
Mhm.
Let's assume that they are a strata and that they do not get along and they're always 1v1. Like, how does strata help them solve their problems?
At least then the other guy has a process to go to deal with this. Yes, you're going to have to go to the CRT and wait 24 months, but
Mm,
at least there's a way to do it,
right.
right? Like without the Strata Property Act, you got nothing. What are you going to do? Go to small claims court and say, "Can you make this guy mow his lawn? I'm mad." The court's going to
Yeah.
freaking laugh at
Lawns
you,
you
right?
can't get, but
No, they'll laugh, right? But like the Strata
mhm,
Property Act and CRT will allow that. So it's there for the bad days, not the all days. And for people who are, in buildings that have greater needs, it allows the flexibility for
cool.
governing those things. Like
We need another horror story. What do you got for us?
oh, okay. So this, I did a little search of the CRT as well because I knew of a few cases. One, not that I attended, but the year prior, um, there had been RCMP called to the AGM, and I would not be alone in that kind of story. So multiple licensees, colleagues over their years have described literal fist fights at meetings,
Yeah.
council meetings, AGMs. And in one, I had just taken on this building, and the AGM minutes referenced like people with machetes on the property. And so then that, like,
Bloody hell.
so then I searched and I was like, wow, there's actually like multiple CRT results that you can pull up under search terms like machete, knife, weapon, things like that. Cleaver. There's one where, there's people wandering through common property with meat cleavers and machetes and baseball bats. And the strata ended up in a fight because this resident wanted to install a fence to stop the crazy knife man from walking through their property. And the strata wouldn't allow them to. So they went to the CRT, and the CRT said, well, yeah, that's kind of a safety concern. So you can build your knife keeping out fence. No problem.
I heard from somebody recently that some angry resident or something had actually started a fire in their lobby, and it took out the concierge area, and now they're
Oh,
putting in protective glass around it, and it led to a big, obviously, lobby renovation project, which was unplanned and unexpected. But yeah, you hear these things, and they're frightful.
Yeah, and a couple buildings that I managed over the years, mostly kind of in the downtown core area and other like more like high traffic urban areas. There are multiple times where I had to send out bylaw infraction notices for knife and weapons and threats and things
Mm,
like that, and like where like residents got into a fight and then they took the fight into the hallways, and sometimes there'd be like bloody handprints on people's doors. They were like bashing in doors and things as they're continuing this fight along the way.
oh,
That's happened multiple times, and so that was what piqued my curiosity to see if other managers had that situation. And yeah, sure
right.
enough, there's a whole bunch of CRT cases about knives and blood too, and how people have yeah been fined or had orders against behavior related to fistfights and inappropriateness in common property or at meetings. Like,
Wow.
so that's why
Yeah.
I say like strata's needed. We don't get along very good. Like
Yeah.
we're a little crazy. So
We are, and I mean, you hear it from across, cross jurisdictions. Ontario had a terrible case a few years ago where
yeah.
condo board members were targeted
And someone was actually shot, I believe.
yeah,
There
they
was
were.
gun violence because that when that happened here in BC, as licensees, we all heard about that story. It was like our
Absolutely.
9/11 in Strata. We all
Yeah,
started being like, well, I don't want to do in-person meetings anymore because I deal with a
yeah.
lot of bad buildings and their owners might shoot me and in the crossfire. Like, I don't want to deal with that. You don't pay me enough of this starting salary of 55,000 to deal with that. That's ridiculous.
What's your sense
So
of how many meetings now are managed remotely and done electronically
it's
after
pushing
the course?
backwards, to be honest. There are higher return to office mandates and back to in-person meetings than I've seen in a
Mhm.
while. Um, I don't mind it. Like, I like coming into
Yeah.
the office for the structure, the interaction, but I do find it's more
Mhm.
distracting. So I like the flexibility to do a little bit of both. Um, But honestly, if I was coming into the industry now, like I'm a little more seasoned, thick skin. I'll say it like it is. If I get a bad vibe, I'm out of there. I'm not going to put myself into a safety, questionable safety situation. But if I was like 25-year-old young woman now entering this industry, I would question if I want to be going to private residences with the likes of adults in the strata world, to be honest. Like,
Yeah,
it makes me
especially
more
since
uncomfortable just knowing
they're
my
not.
own experiences too.
Mhm.
So
I have
I don't
heard
know.
some managers pushing for business hour meetings instead of
Yes.
evening meetings, which, yeah, I can understand. Certainly from their perspective, for the owners, it's less something that I can see them wanting to do. It's sort of in their off time. It's not their day job, but I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But if we think about boards of directors that people would be on for corporations, they don't usually meet late at night, right? And if they do,
Yeah,
it probably wouldn't
exactly.
be in their
Yeah,
own
it's
parkade of their building, right? Like if you're going to be meeting in person, please don't do it in the parkade. You know how many times that's happened?
I cannot imagine it being in a parkade.
Yeah, it's happened. Not just to me, to others. I had an AGM once in Richmond on their playground in the common area directly under a flight path. That was super fun. Like, what? You guys are so cheap that you can't pitch in like an extra $100 to rent an amenity room at a church nearby. Come on now,
Yeah,
stop that.
that's what
That's
I'm thinking.
ridiculous.
There
So
are, if you don't have an amenity room, there are places that
there
can
are,
host you.
yes, probably your brokerage has a space that they'll charge you 50 or $100 for to rent too.
Yeah. Do you have any horror stories on, turnouts or non-turnouts for meetings?
I was saying, okay, horror story of an AGM was the impromptu hijacked hybrid meeting. So this
Oh,
was one where it was meant to be electronic, but there was a mutiny group, one person on council, who drummed up a group of other owners, and they decided they were going to meet in person, hell or high water. So we had immediately, it became obvious logging into the Zoom call, and we had a lawyer, we had the insurance there at the request of the council to talk about a big claim going on. And we had like all these people on the call. And it becomes obvious that this like owners caused a mutiny because it's clear that like there's 20 people in the downstairs amenity room on their phones, and all of them are creating digital interference with each other, and no one can hear anything. Um,
wow.
and it was hilarious. And then very quickly, that council member sensed that they had created a very bad idea, even though like I had said it straight up from the get-go, don't do hybrid meetings. And we did kind of like, I don't remember how it happened. I think that the council member themselves sensed that it was becoming problematic, so they kind of like corralled everyone and they said, okay, we're only gonna talk through one person and stuff. But it was a nightmare. Like it was, yeah, no, like thinking of nightmares too. Like this industry is so weird that literally after you're in it as a licensee for a while, you'll start to dream about it. And at that point, you are working and living you're in the job 24/7 at that point. Because as soon as you shut your eyes, you're in another AGM or council meeting. And it's never a good one. Okay. Never, ever.
It sounds like a nightmare. I just sleep at night. My wife dreams
No,
about stuff,
no,
but
like it's so vivid and it's horrifying. And I'm not the only one, because if you search CRT, there is another situation where there is a recurring significant issues with water ingress. And this owner in the CRT case actually described how he was having nightmares recurring at night about water bubbles in his ceiling bursting on him. Like it's described in detail in the CRT case. And I'm like, finally, someone gets me.
that is funny. Water is my nemesis, so I'm always ears out for the sound of dripping where there shouldn't be.
Snow is my nemesis. We are
Um,
not capable of dealing with it in Vancouver.
this was a good year for you. Barely anything.
It was snowing this morning in Chilliwack, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Here we are, mid-March, and we're getting a little, what do they call it? Wintry mix. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it was a good morning, actually. I wanted to, today, I don't know, it's such a good mood today because we had the finale prom of our Building 101 course we've been doing with our licensees here that I've been building for them. So every week for 8 weeks, we've been doing almost like high school. So like week 1 was astronomy. So they went through the constellations of all the different legislation. It's not about you becoming an astronaut. It's about you just knowing which galaxy you're in and what it demands of you. So it's like that.
Cool.
And then the next week it was anatomy and biology lessons. So it was the building as anatomy. And it was like, the envelope is the skin, and the HVAC and ventilation is the respiration in the lungs, and and then so each week added on something else. The next week was like the health and wellness counselor, and the next week was the career fair, and then week 7 was the LSAT. So we did reading technical documents and understanding technical documents, and then this week 8 was prom. So it was building eras. And if anyone's met Jackie Thompson, our director of Strata here, she's a huge Swiftie. So I did it like Taylor Swift eras tour prom. So I made a slideshow.
My
It
son
had like
would be screaming and running right now. It's like,
it was so much fun, I'll be honest. Like it's probably one of my favorite courses that I've ever developed in Strata. Like it just let
that
me
sounds
be
good.
creatively exactly and just get to do and be what I wanted to be. And the
I mean,
team
that
had
sounds really great.
so
You know,
much fun.
I did a Condo 101 through the CCI, and it was Phil Dugan and Lisa, and they were great. But you know, it
Phil's
was. I don't
actually a
think it
very
had.
entertaining
He
educator.
is,
Yes,
dry,
he's
but
a good
very
choice.
funny, very
He's
funny.
hilarious. Yes.
But I don't think it had the thematic experience that this thing does. So
Thank
you
you.
should bring this to the masses.
I have tried, but now it's a little more exclusive. If you want StrataGal Live, you're going to have to be a client of Advantage now. So we'll be doing tons of awesome stuff through Advantage
Son
in
of
the
a
next while.
nutcracker!
I'll still be doing some webinars and things like that, but
Right.
no, I
There you
gotta
have it, folks.
put it where it's wanted. So
I know. Well, now you're in Chilliwack.
I know.
It's nice there, huh?
You know what? I don't mind it. And the whole town doesn't smell like manure. It's just like a certain part
You've
when you
just
drive
gotten used to it,
through.
my dear.
Yeah,
When we come to
maybe.
Chilliwack, we smell it.
As long as it's not on me, that's fine.
Fair.
Um, no,
That's
honestly, we've
fun.
had so much fun, and like, so we had StrataGal Live AGM, and what you're like exactly what you're talking about. Like, we've done 1.5 million mock AGMs in this industry. We've done them for decades. But what we did last Saturday at StrataGal Live was
That was
not
nice.
the same. Like, you
It
have
was
to
not the same.
imagine it's almost, yeah, like RCMP or paramedic training or pilot training mixed with like a murder mystery and an escape room. Like, there's a whole canon and a backstory and supporting documentation. We had experts there. There was a craft table and Mad Libs just to break it up a little, because you can't go
It was
wrong.
very cool, and it's not
So
over because tomorrow,
yeah. Tomorrow we
last chance.
have part 2, the electronic AGM. So we'll be meeting tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Groundbreakingstrata.com, not too late to register, or stratagal.com. They'll take you to the same place, by the way. Yeah, I had so much fun. We're going to redo that with the Advantage clients too, because I have to say it's so much fun working with a client pool that wants it. Like, they, as a group, they've been screaming for education for a while, and to have a brokerage here that's like, we get you, we see you, we got this. We want you to not only be educated, we want you to have fun doing it. They are just soaking it up, and our managers are telling us that they're seeing better clients that are wanting to do, like, people that they fought with about putting SOPs or things into place, even councils that weren't even doing minutes on the regular, that now they're like, so we went to that learning and we think we better start doing minutes. And then the manager comes, tells me afterwards, and I'm just like, I am so happy, I'm gonna cry. Like, I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Having people that are learning from this and enjoying the experience will lead to better outcomes, and that's what Strata Education hopefully will become all about. We've heard a lot of talk about it in the last few months, and who knows whether there will or will not be something formalized and when in this province. But the more that people understand what they're in for and what it means, and I think
what'll
it's
be interesting
all
is BCFSA has just launched their pilot of their applied strata management course. And I asked them if they would put me through to audit it so I could give them my feedback, but they politely declined. So I'm not going to be paying $900 to take a course I could probably teach. But I will be curious to listen out for the feedback from those that are going through, because I'm super curious to see what they've put together, but I just don't want to pay $900 for it. So
fair. Awesome. That's great. Well, this was an entertaining session. I'm glad we finished on a more positive note than the horror stories, but be safe out there on your Friday the 13th. And we'll see you tomorrow for the AGM part 2.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Catherine. Bye for now.